Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Each One Reach One. We are here to continue our study of what are we on? Salvation for the world or a nation? That is the question. Is salvation for the entire world, the entire earth, or is it for a certain nation? We are going to start today in Deuteronomy chapter 28. We're going to go through the curses, what's known as the curses of Deuteronomy. The curses are something that was put inside of the book so that we might understand, one, so that it will be a cautionary tale and a deterrence for the Israelites from wickedness. But also, these things would be a marker, a way for later generations like ours that we're in currently to be able to identify who the Israelites are in the earth at present day. So let's give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, our Father Yahweh, to the beloved, our Savior, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, the propitiation for our sins, the Lamb of our atonement, the reason for every breath that we draw wouldn't be possible. Neither would everlasting life or the hope thereof be without his sacrifice and his love for his people and his obedience to the Father. So let us also ask for an outpouring of the Holy Spirit in heavy measure to the point that our cups runneth over. We want to be able to have enough to be able to share with other people, that we might be able to pull some out of the fire. It should always be your desire to be able to put your own life jacket on, put your own, mask on, and then turn to your brethren and try to help them put theirs on as well so they can be saved also. You can't save everybody, but darn it, you can try, right? You can try to save someone, at least one person, each one, reach one. That's the mantra. All right, so let's get to it. Deuteronomy chapter 28, the curses of Deuteronomy. All right, so verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. So they're given a promise that if they listen to all the commandments that the Most High, the Father, have given to Moses to give to the people, if they obeyed all of these commandments, that he will set them on high above all nations, and they will reap all of these blessings. We're not going to go into all the blessings just for sake of time, because Deuteronomy is a long chapter and we're going to get all of the curses. So let's just suffice it to say that now he goes in and begins to talk about the blessings, okay? And now we're going to skip right to the curses. Why? Because we know that the children of Israel disobeyed. They didn't obey. So you wouldn't need to look for the blessings in order to be able to identify them. You got to look for the curses because they disobeyed. So the curses is what's going to be attached to these people. It's going to be the marker. It's going to be how you know how to spot these people. Okay, so verse 15 is where it begins. The consequences of disobedience, aka the curses. All right, and you got to think while you're listening to this, what people in the earth does this apply to? Or did it apply to? Who did these things happen to? Did it happen to the 1948ers? The people who are over there in that land calling themselves Israel? Did these things happen to them? No? Who did it happen to then? These are the questions you must ask yourself throughout the course of this walkthrough. Okay, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, unto his 10 commandments, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. What did he say was going to happen for disobedience? All of these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All right, that's the springboard. Now let's hop off the porch. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. right? Our people were cursed in the city, cursed in the fields, cursed to work from sun up to sundown. We had very low mortality rates because our people were literally being worked to death. All right. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Right? That's how much food and things that you're able to buy. Curse and store up. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. All right. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, your children. Right. And the fruit of thy land, which you're able to produce through your land, your flocks. Everything's going to be cursed. You and everything that is yours, everything that you put your hands on. Like King Midas had the Midas touch, everything he touched turned to gold. Well, when we were cursed, everything that we touched would be spoiled unless we were doing it for our enemies. Then they would reap the benefits. Anything that we did for ourselves would not prosper. Okay. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke. All right. He sent upon us cursing, vexation, constantly stressed out in a state of anxiety, right? And oppression and rebuke. And in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do. See, that's the opposite of the Midas touch. Until thou be destroyed. Until when? Until thou be destroyed. You're going to go through all of these things until thou be destroyed. The Israelites should be a people who, through their disobedience, they were a destroyed people. They became destroyed. And continuing on, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. He will send upon us cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that we set our hands to do until we are destroyed. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it. When these people came upon us, we end up suffering from great pestilences because they brought with them diseases when they came upon us. Many people don't understand that it was our people who were over here in these lands of America that they came to, they initially had contact with, that they call Indians, is not who they call the Indians today. Those were not the Indians of old. Those were not the Indians that they came across. Think about it logically. Where did they get all the seeds and everything from in order to plant in the land? Why was it our people doing all of the cultivating of the land? You got to know a land in order to know how to cultivate that land. You got to know what things grow in what seasons and in that particular environment. You got to have a good working knowledge of your land, the seasons, the environment, the different crops that you're going to grow, all of these things, because these people didn't bring their own crops with them, their own seeds with them. No. They came and they got what was indigenous to the land. How did the Negroes, if every last one of them were brought here on a slave ship, and I said every last one of them because some were here, some were brought. Okay? Some were here, some were brought. And when they came, we all know the story about, the colonial powers coming, right? The colonizers, they came and they brought diseases with them. These pestilences that cleave into the people and killed many of them. See, this said this was going to happen to the Israelites, and this happened to our people when we came into contact with them, or they came into contact with us, I should say. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. That sounds like prison to me. Sounds like prison. And the Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. The Israelites would be removed into all the kingdoms of the entire earth. The Israelites should be a people who went into a worldwide captivity, a worldwide slavery. Does the transatlantic slave trade come to mind? Anybody? Anybody? And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Nobody has been able to save us from what we've gone through. We had to go through it. It was the curses. We had to experience all those things. Nobody was ever able to save us out of it. And the Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, right? It's like with boils and inflammation, right? And with hemorrhoids, that's hemorrhoids, I believe, and with the scab and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. This is what our people have gone through. We still suffer the effects of these things to this day. Madness, we deal with madness and blindness and astonishment. And this is not just like physical blindness. This is like spiritual blindness. We were put into the dark. We have been made mad. We have been driven crazy. We have been driven out of our minds via oppression, via slavery, via everything that they've put us through. Trauma is real. The effects of trauma is real. And genetic trauma is real. Traumas are passed down genetically. We still suffer madness, blindness, and astonishment of heart to this day for things that our ancestors went through. And in some form, we still deal with these things occurring to us in our current time, to us directly. Remember, this is what the Israelites will be going through in the end of days. This is how you spot them. Who are the people that bear the signs of these curses? And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. We have that now. They allow some people to make it through the cracks. They allow some people to prosper so that they can say, hey, look, see, if they can do it, you can do it. See, your situation is not the result of anything that's happened to you. It's your own fault. And this is what they do. They create the environment of, okay, we let some through, but the great majority will oppress and hold back so that we can tell the rest of them that, hey, you see the rest of these people, they were able to make it. How come you weren't able to make it? Right? And this also happened like during the times of slavery. They had some what we call field Negroes, and then we had the field Negroes and then the house Negroes. The house Negroes developed a mindset of, well, hey, I'm not like them. I'm so happy to not be one of them out there, right? It became a us versus them mentality, and they started to look at those in the field like, well, if I could make it out of the field, how come you can't? If I could get, you know what I'm saying, favor from the master, how come you can't find any favor? Well, it's because the person in the house got a little bit more favor because the person in the house had to cook master's food. Master wasn't too stupid to not realize that he needed to be a little bit nice to the person preparing his food so he don't get poisoned. He had to be a little bit nice to the person constantly in his house so he don't get knifed in his sleep. So he treated those in the house better than those in the field, and then those in the house would begin to look at those in the field like, hey, if I can do it, why can't you? See, they started these things that the putting our people against each other, this developing a separatist mindset between our people, and they continue to build these two different factions of, okay, some that we let through, some that we don't, and the haves will look at the have-nots and with contempt and say, well, if I can do it, why can't you? And then us as the slave masters and the oppressors, we get to say, well, see, if they can make it, how come you can't? You have no excuse. You have all the same opportunities. But meanwhile, they use their systems of power to stop you from being able to prosper every chance they get, and then say you're supposed to overcome it and say, why don't you overcome all of these obstacles that I put in front of you? How come you're not succeeding with all of these obstacles that I'm placing in front of you? This is because they had all of this was to fulfill the prophecy, so that we would bear record of all that we are the people of God. Thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. That's by decree of the Most High God. So when you're looking at these Negroes and saying, well, why can't they just get it together? Why don't they this or why don't they that? And if all these other different people groups can do it, why can't they do it? Because there is a system set up to make sure that we don't, that we can't do it. And when we say it's systemic, we're not lying. The Bible is telling you. How else do you think the Most High was going to make these curses true unless he allowed systems to be built that made it true? The Most High uses people to get his will done. And he used these people to build oppressive systems, these racist systems that would keep us from prospering in our ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save thee. No freedom fighters, no human rights organizations, right? No civil rights leaders, nothing. Nothing. Thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her. So the Israelites would go through a plague of the men would betroth a wife, and another man would lie with her. Somebody would lie with their women. When and where did this happen? Slavery, right? The slave masters and their sons would come in and take the wives of the slave men and sleep with them. They would rape them and sleep with them, sexually assault them and everything else. These men would be forced to have to live under circumstances where their wives are being taken and being ravished by other men. They had no power to do anything about it. This happened to the Negroes. Go ask those Israelis and ask them when they went through a period of being enslaved and the slave masters were taking their women and having their way with their women, having their way with their wives. Ask them. Go look in their history and find out when this has ever happened to them. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shall not gather the grapes thereof. But to touch on that again for a moment, see, it wasn't just slavery when that happened. See, now, even in this current day, this is happening in a different way. It's not slavery the way it's happening, but the curses still are true. See, the Most High is still making the curses true. He might change the way in that the curses are carried out, but they're still true. And many Israelite women are going to hate this next part that I'm about to say, but I got to tell the truth and shame the devil. Many Israelite men to this day, right now, have to deal with unfaithful women. See, there is a stigma out there about the men being unfaithful, but the truth is that it's mostly the women. The women are serial cheaters. They're serial cheaters. This is why many Black men don't like to get married, don't trust women. They watch their mothers be serial cheaters and you know, loosey-goosey with her sex. Right? Infidelity among Negro women is very big. And it's also one of the biggest kept secrets in our community, and you're not supposed to talk about it. And when you do talk about it, you know, you gotta say that, you gotta give the caveat and say, well, you gotta give them the excuse and say, well, it's not their fault. It's because of what the men are doing. It's because the men aren't men, and the men aren't this, and the men aren't that. It gotta be some fault or excuse, some reason that's out of their control, the reason why they're unfaithful, and the reason why they're monkey branching and swinging from one man to another, sleeping with this man and that man, always on the lookout for, you know what I'm saying, the best opportunity or a better opportunity. So this remains true to this day. This is how the Most High is making this, the curse, remain true to the time of the end. This is the truth. Don't get mad at me, ladies. I was going to say get mad at God, but no, I don't even want to encourage you to do that. I would just understand that this is the truth and the truth must be spoken. And if you would admit the truth, then you would speak the same thing and you would know. You wouldn't fight against what I'm saying because you know it's the truth. A lot of you women, if it ain't you yourself, you got plenty of girlfriends who you know are serial cheaters. And they got this thing, right, among women, especially Black women, where they talk about how great they are at cheating. Oh, yeah, women are great at cheating. We're the best at cheating. When we cheat, you don't even know. They brag on being great cheaters, and then when you call them cheaters, then they act insulted. They act insulted when you call them cheaters. Well, you calling me cheater, you don't have no proof. Well, I don't need any proof. I just feel like you're cheating. And that should be good enough because, you know, you guys yourselves say that you're great cheaters and that you'll cheat and then we'll have no idea. So I can suspect you of cheating, but just because I don't have the proof doesn't mean you're not doing it because you, after all, you brag on being expert cheaters, right? Yeah, they do. They profess to be experts at covering their tracks. This is a curse still going strong today. But all of these curses will be on the people. Not every curse would be on every single Israelite, but all of the Israelites will be experiencing some of these curses. And thou shalt plant a vineyard and shall not gather the grapes thereof. So the real Israelites would plant crops, harvest them, and would not get to enjoy them. Another people would enjoy the fruit of their labor. This happened to our people through slavery, and it happens in this current time. We still are building up the wealth of other people, working hard and not being able to really reap the benefits, getting paid pennies when you're making somebody else rich. They throw you some crumbs and try to call it fair. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. What people experienced having their children snatched from them, taken, and sold off into slavery to other people? What people had their families ripped apart? Mother, wife sent that way, father, husband sent that way to this plantation, children taken, split up to this plantation and that plantation. And the parents had no might in their hands to stop their children from being ripped from them and being sold into slavery or sold to other enslavers. Guarantee you the Israelis have no history of this. They'll have no knowledge of this, no record of this happening to them as a people, which means they don't bear the record. The signs of these curses are not on them. Verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. The Negroes are constantly oppressed and crushed always, still to this day, has not ended. Oppression just looks different. The way we're crushed looks different than it did once upon a time, but it still happens. So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. The Negroes, the Israelites, should be a people who are furious and angry when they look around and see everything that they see, because they will look around and see all the sights, all the things that remind them of their oppression, all the things that show them what happened to them is happening today. This is the reason why they're trying to change the history books, the reason why they hate for history to be shown, the reason why if you go anywhere online and you see Black people sharing things that either are currently happening to us or happened in the past, you'll see the comment section filled with white people saying, oh, you guys are just being divisive. You guys need to just let that go. Right? You'll see it. Because they know these things are making us angry. And see, the fear is that us talking about these things, thinking about these things, seeing these things, noticing these things, being aware of these things would drive us to extreme anger. And in that extreme anger, we would turn our anger toward them. So there's a great fear among these people right now that these Negroes, because of everything that they've gone through, they're going to turn unto us and do unto us as we and our forefathers have done unto them and their ancestors. Thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes. Every time we see some slave narrative, some old slave movie, right? Every time we read in the books and read history and see what really happened to our people. Every time we turn on the news and we see what's going on with our people and what they're doing to us and the situations they're putting us in, the conditions they're creating for us to do what we do to each other and what they do to us on top of that. This is making us mad. We are mad for the sight of our eyes, which we see. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed, from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Thou shalt become an astonishment. Negroes, we are literally, in every land that we are in, we are an astonishment in the land. We are a proverb, a cautionary tale, right? And a byword. Byword is a sharp word, a cutting word, a derogatory word, right? Words that are used to try to cut us, like nigger, coon, right? Ape, monkey. All of these different terms that they come up with, you know what I'm saying, to try to cut us. Black, right? Because black is about status and not about color, because everybody with any level of intelligence knows that we aren't really black, right? We're different variations of brown. You know what I mean? So we bear the record of the curses. He says, you will become these things in all the nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. So the Israelites should be a people who have been led into all these different kingdoms, all these different nations in the earth. Not a people who migrated to different places, a people who was led via slavery and captivity into all of these different kingdoms and places in the earth. The Israelites should be a people still in the lands of their captivities right now today, still suffering oppression in the lands that they were taken captive into right now. Right? The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there, in those lands where you're taken, thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. These gods, wood and stone, are references to Christianity. Wood, see the idol worship of, the cross is symbolic of Christianity, the wooden cross, right? And stone is symbolic of Islam. Because in that cube that they like to encircle over there in Mecca, what's inside of that cube is a stone that fell from the sky, what they call a meteorite, right? And thou shalt become an astonishment and a proverb and a byword among all nations, all nations where the Lord shall lead thee. I had to go backwards to get that because I didn't emphasize the wood and stone. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast its fruit. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Again, during slavery, our people were having children, and were not able to enjoy their children because they were going into captivity. They were being taken from them and sent all over the place. Families were torn apart. And then into modern times, via what they call like the family courts, and that continued to tear families apart. They use welfare to tear families apart, right? They utilized the child services agency to come in and take your children and put them into foster care and put them into their system, took them into captivity. All thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. And if you remember, in the Bible, certain animals and insects and whatnot are used symbolically to refer to people and the characteristics of a people, like a people who come through and devour up the land, called locusts, to devour up all the plant life, to devour up your heart, to devour your harvest. That's what locusts do. And so this is a characteristic of a certain type of person who would come and do the same thing that locusts do. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. So the Israelites would be a people who strangers will come and dwell among them. They will come among them into their cities, into their communities, and the stranger will get up above them very high, and they will come down very low. Show me an Israeli community, a Jewish community, where outsiders come into their community, and then they get up very high above them, and they themselves are brought down low, while the strangers among them are the prosperous ones. That happens to Negroes, though. In our communities comes the Arabs, Indians, the East Indians, the Hispanics, I said Asians, Hispanics, Arabs, Indians, all of these different people from these different backgrounds, they come into our communities, and then they get up very high above us. They get the business loans so that they can open up the stores in our communities, open up the restaurants in our communities, open up Dollar Tree, lending agencies, banks, and everything else. They come, other people, every other group of people is able to come into the Black community and get business loans and get real estate and so forth, and set themselves up in our communities above us, and we are very low. We have to come to all of these other people, all of these strange people, in order to get everything that we need. All of our needs have to be met via these other people groups, right? So this is happening. It has always happened to us, right? Not these other people. It's the Negroes who this has happened to and continues to happen to right now to this day. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. We are the lowly in our own communities. Other nations of people can come into our communities and get raised up above us. They get the help of the government to be lifted up higher than us. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shall be the tail. We don't have any banks We aren't the bank owners and the people who are in position of power to where we have to lend to other people and we never have to borrow. We never have to go to other people for anything that we need, but they got to come to us. But the Jewish people, they do. They own banks, right? They own many of the Federal Reserves and a lot of the federal banks and these national banks and everything else. They're the main lenders that everybody else have to borrow from. Come on, we are in a time of information. This can no longer be hidden. This isn't even this isn't something I'm just guessing about. This is something that most people, if they are seekers of the truth, know to be true. You know this to be true, that the Jewish people are the main lenders and money people, the money changers and so forth. You got to go through them. You got to go through them. That's the reason why they wield so much power, because the one who controls the money controls the power. They have the power. The Negroes are on the bottom. We are the tail, see? And thou shalt be the tail. He shall be the head. The strangers, the other people. And thou shalt be the tail. We are the tail. In the nation, in every nation we're in every community, in every nation that we are in, we're at the bottom. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. All these curses will come upon us and pursue us and overtake us until we became a destroyed people. We, the Negroes, the real Israelites, we are the most downtrodden people. We are the destroyed people, overtaken and pursued by these curses. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. What is it? These curses. All these curses shall come upon thee, pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed. And they, meaning all these curses, shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder. For a sign and for a wonder. It is a sign of who the Israelites are. He put these curses on us so that everybody would know who the Israelites were by following the signs. Look at the signs. The signs will show you the people. They shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder. They're supposed to wonder when they see us. Why are they going through what they're going through as a people? Then they're supposed to search for the answer. Oh, it's because they disobeyed the Lord their God. Oh, God is real. Oh, look what he did to his people for disobedience. See, we are a sign that God exists. We are a sign of how he rewards disobedience. We are a sign of what is to come to the other nations for their wickedness, because he showed the world how he rewards wickedness by what he did to his own people first. We are something to be wondered at, because looking at us is supposed to make people think about God. They're supposed to come to knowledge of God by looking at us. And these signs and wonders are supposed to be upon us and our seed forever. Forever means an indefinite amount of time. Doesn't mean for eternity. It means for an indefinite amount of time, meaning until the Most High God says that's enough. Until he says, okay, I'm doing something else now with this people. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee. We shall serve our enemies. The Israelites will serve their enemies. The Most High will send people against his people to take them captive, to put them in slavery, to oppress them. And his people would serve these people in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness and in want of all things. His people would have to rely on these other people for their food, for their water, for their housing, for their clothing, for everything. They will be reliant upon their enemies for all of their necessities in life. That happened to us. Still is happening to us. Right? And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. until he have destroyed thee. What people experienced figurative and a literal yoke of iron being placed upon their necks in their captivity? Which people? Which people? Which people? Yoke of iron about your neck. Which people? Which people? Which people? Which people? Which people? Are you looking? Which people? Right? We experienced these things. He said that he was going to do this to us, and he did it. He said this is what we would experience, and we experienced it. Right? We are the people who fulfilled prophecy. Show me these other people haven't gone through this. Show me. Verse 49, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. These people that he would bring upon us would be a fierce people, barbaric, inhumane. They would not regard the person of the old. They didn't care anything about our elderly, nor show favor to the young. They didn't show favor to our young people, say, oh, those are children. Let's be nice to them. No, children had to get out in those fields and pick cotton and labor intensively also. Our children were snatched away and used in their carnivals to be beat on, like a whack-a-mole. The original whack-a-moles, they was whacking their babies. The old fair, what do you call them? The fair, I was gonna say ride. It's not a ride. It's escaping me right now. But when they have like the entrapment at the fairs and the carnivals and so forth, where you get the man or the woman, they're sitting inside of this tank and they're sitting on this contraption, and people have to throw a ball or something at this thing, and when you hit the thing, then it triggers the contraption inside to release, and then the person sitting on it falls and they get dunked into the water. Well, the earlier models of those contraptions, it was a baby, a black baby, a Negro baby, an Israelite baby who was placed inside of the contraption. And people had to launch, they had to launch balls and stuff, fastballs at the baby, at the infant's faces, at their heads, to trigger the machine, to dunk another baby that's inside of the tank to be drowned. If you don't know about the whole gator bait phenomenon yet, go research it. These people took black babies, our Negro babies, our Israelite babies, tied them up with rope and used them as alligator bait so that they can have shoes and belts and stuff. They dashed our children against the stones. They cut open women's bellies, pulled the babies out, and killed the babies. They did all manner of wickedness. They showed no favor to our old or young. This happened to us. Where did it happen to those people? Verse 51, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee corn wine or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. See, we were destroyed physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We had our spirituality beaten out of us. We were beaten until the point where we disconnected from our own humanity. We became just like the cattle and the sheep. So we went through something called chattel slavery. We became just like the animals. They took away our spirituality. They took away our God from us. They took away our ability to feel and to love and to care. They did this to us. They destroyed this. They destroyed families this way. They took away our ability to love each other. They made us hate one another by pitting us against each other in combat, pitting us against each other in young versus old, pitting us against each other in, house slave versus field slave, dark skinned slave versus light skinned slave, right? Give certain slaves the power and as overseers over the other slaves, and use, our own people to be the shotgun bearers and so forth, to be the snitches, the tattletales. They destroyed us because the Most High's word had to be true. It had to be true. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, and all your land is going to besiege you, until thy high fence walls come down, wherein thou trustest throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. This happened in 70 AD. And it continued to happen on smaller scales in the other lands in which we were driven to. And thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which the Lord thy God hath given thee in the siege and in the straitness, wherewith thy enemies shall distress thee. And this is literal and figurative, right? Our people went through a time where it was so bad, they turned to cannibalism because they were starved. Enemies deprived them of all food and sustenance. They were starving, so they turned to literal cannibalism. And it's figurative in the sense that to eat means to destroy, right? To crush. We destroy our own children because of the position that we were in. A lot of people were killed our own children just so that they wouldn't experience the hard bondage of captivity. You had mothers killing their children just to save them from captivity and slavery, to save them from what the oppressors and enslavers would do to them. Verse 54, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, so the weaker men among us, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. See, this is where you get this whole thing now where it's like we just can't get along. What they call black on black crime, even though there's white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, you're more likely to be killed by somebody of your own ethnicity, somebody from your own neighborhood, your own communities, your own groups, because these things is really about proximity, right? Really about proximity. White people kill white people more than anybody kill white people. You know what I'm saying? White people kill each other a lot, but they talk about black on black crime like it's just some plague among our people that other people don't experience. But our people experience this at the hands of other people because we were taught to be like this towards each other via the other people. See, it became a curse upon us via the curses that's happened to us. Right? And so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother and toward the wife of his bosom and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. This is why you do get the cases of certain men leaving their homes, leaving the family, right? This was once upon a time. Now, in this day and age, men don't even get to leave. the women leave. The women destroy the families, or it's just not even families being built in the first place. You know what I mean? We're in the loosey-goosey age, the sexual revolution, where women are free to just, sleep with whoever and wherever and do whatever they please. Right? So now families aren't even being built. People are just having sex, and babies are being born out of people just sleeping around. And, so men aren't leaving families. It was never a family in the first place. A woman just got pregnant. That's all. Right? So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he hath nothing left him in the siege. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, black men would be brought down so low and wouldn't have anything. And so men would be leaving their families because they didn't have anything to give them. They couldn't be a man because they were robbed of the opportunity to be a man, to be a father, and to take care of their families. They just left their families. And this is what also happened with welfare. Many black men were leaving their families willingly so that their families can get the welfare, so that their families wouldn't starve. In the early days of welfare, when they first came in with the welfare and offered the government assistance, and said, well, we'll only give this government assistance if there was no man in the house. The men had to be gone in order for the families to get help. So the men would leave so that the family could get help, because he was jobless. He wasn't able to work. He was being kept out of work. Everything that he tried to do, he couldn't prosper in because of the curses, having to go to your enemies for one of all things, and them saying, no, I'm not going to give you a job. I'm not going to let you work and have the ability to take care of your family. So they created a situation where our families, our people, become dependent upon them for all things, to make the scripture true, where he says you will have to depend on your enemies in hunger and in thirst and in want of all things. This happened to us. We bear the signs of the curses because we were distressed in the siege and the straitness and in all of our gates. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. Our women used to be treated like princesses, right? They didn't labor, they didn't work, right? They were tender and delicate once upon a time, but via slavery, via the great oppression that came upon us through these curses, our women who would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter, and toward her young one that cometh out from her between her feet, and toward her children, which she shall bear. Right? That's why our women now have this extreme hatred towards the men. They hate us. They hate our guts. Right? And they hate their children, because their children to them are oppressors. The children are people who are in need of them, and women don't really like to have anybody to need them. That's why you'll hear in our communities women say, well, oh, any man that needs a woman, he's not a real man, right? And so, because women themselves, they don't want to be needed. They want to be wanted. And so they'll turn around and say to men, I don't need you. I don't need a man for anything. I want you, but I don't need you. See, they say that because they put themselves on men, because they as women want to be wanted. They don't want to be needed. But men like to be needed. Men don't necessarily need to be wanted. Men like to be needed. Right? And so this is what you have. If women have to work, they're not going to be good people, right? They're going to be hateful, spiteful, and angry, bitter people to the men around them and to their own children. And through colonialism, our women had to work. They had to get in the fields. They had to get out there and labor. And so they quit being delicate and tender and developed an evil eye toward their men and toward their children. Right? And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children, which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for want of all things. She shall destroy her children for want of all things. See, because women, they have all of these desires of, I want this and I want that, and they want to live this life that they see on TV and on social media and in movies and so forth. And so they destroy their own children. Many boys become drug dealers because their mothers push them out into the streets as young boys and tell them you're the man of the house and you can't sit in my house and not contribute and not help me out. They look at their young boys like he's some grown man in the house that is taken away from her and that he got to get out and go into the streets and go earn a living. He got to go get money. He got to help mama out. He got to help contribute to the household in order to be treated decently, in order to receive his mother's love. See, because mama's love is for purchase. You got to purchase mama's love. And it's the same way right now. We have what's called prostitute culture within the Black community. All the women are for sale. If you don't have any money, she says, why should I love you? And you're not, what are you doing for me? And the women have the same attitude towards their children. Well, what are you doing for me? Right? So the daughter's gotta do, this, that, and the other in order for mom's love. The son got to do this, that, and the other for mom's love. And so the women destroy the children and eat the children for want of all things, secretly in the siege and straitness and difficult times, wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gates. All of these are the curses, the things that we're experiencing. These are the curses. If thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, Yahweh, thy God, thy power, then Yahweh will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance. It's going to go on for a long time. And sore sickness, and of long continuance. Moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou wast afraid of, and they shall cleave unto thee. Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will the Lord bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the Lord, the voice of the Lord thy God. That's why we're called the minority. This is the reason why, for hundreds of years now, they say our population has stayed steady at 12 to 13% for hundreds of years. How did they help keep our numbers consistent at the same place? 12%. And that number 12 tribes of Israel, it's symbolic. See, it's significant because if you are a person used to looking for signs and numbers, then you would be able to look at the sign and say, well, look at these Negroes, 12% of the population for hundreds of years, consistently. 12 tribes of Israel, 12 gates in the kingdom, 12 hours in a day, and so forth. All of these things are supposed to be for a sign and wonder upon us, right? And we are left few in number. We are the minority everywhere because we are scattered throughout the entire earth. So we're few in number everywhere that we are. And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. He shall do what? The Lord shall scatter you among all people. The Israelites should be a people who were scattered among all people. When did the Israelis get scattered among all people? When were they taken into slavery? Taken captives and as captives into all the nations of the earth. When did this happen to them? The true Israelites would be and should be a people who were scattered via slavery among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there, in the land of your captivities, thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Again, Christianity and Islam. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease. Sounds familiar. Sounds like the Negro experience. Sounds like the Black experience. We find no ease in the land of our captivities. They don't make any laws to support us. Asians got a hate crime bill after a couple months of experiencing hardship. Negroes still haven't got a hate crime bill for us after hundreds of years of hardship and persecutions. Everybody else gets reparations, but us. They can't seem to bring themselves to give us any reparations, but they give reparations to other people. They even gave reparations to slave owners for their loss of wages after slavery was quote unquote ended. When the institution of slavery was abolished, supposedly, the slave owners received reparations. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth, even unto the other, worldwide slavery. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing eyes, and sorrow of mind. This is us to this day. We're in fear of our lives all the time. Just driving down the street and seeing a cop car gives Black people PTSD. Seeing those flashing red and blue lights causes PTSD. Going out into the public every day, we're in fear of our lives every day. We never know when that day is going to be our last day. We never know when an encounter with the police is going to be the last day on this earth. We're plagued with a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee. See, we never know when our day is going to come. We never know when it's going to be it. We never know which interaction with law enforcement is going to be our last interaction with anybody. And thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. That's why you saw the rise of the Black Lives Matter, because our lives are viewed as not being important. Nobody cares about Black lives. Black lives have no value. That's the reason why we had to have an entire movement of Black Lives Matter, right? And even though the Black Lives Matter organization was a POS organization that had nothing to do with Black people, it was all about the LGBTQ agenda. But in blackface, they used Black people, Black bodies, Black pain in order to fuel the LGBTQ movement. That's really what it was. It was the catalyst and the vehicle for driving that movement. It had nothing to do with Black people. So Black Lives Matter as a statement, as an idea, yeah, I agree with that. But I don't agree with or support the Black Lives Matter organization. Again, I read their mission statement on their website, and they were all about LGBTQ. They were anti-Black male. They were anti-Black heterosexualism. Right? None assurance of our lives. We don't have any laws in place to help us or protect us. Police aren't prosecuted like they should be for taking our lives. Our possessors slay us and hold themselves not guilty. The very small percentage of them actually are charged and held accountable for their crimes against us. The very small percentage. In the morning thou shalt say, would God, if it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would God it were morning. So, in the morning we would be saying, oh, I wish to God it was the evening time. And in the morning we'd be saying, oh, I wish to God it was the evening time. Because no matter what time we were in, it was always going to be bad, and we were going to be wishing for a different time. We were always going to be longing for the time that we were currently in to end, to be past us. For the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. We're constantly in a longing for a different time, a time to come. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, right? Egypt, Mizraim, means house of bondage. House of bondage, because words had meaning, right? And so what he's saying is, I will bring thee into slavery again. I will bring you into bondage again with ships. I will bring you into bondage again with ships. So the Israelites will be a people who will be taken into worldwide slavery. Remember, he said, I'm going to scatter you throughout all the kingdoms of the earth. I'm going to scatter you from one end of the earth to the next. And now he's telling us how he would do it with ships. I will use ships to take you into slavery. Which people were taken into a worldwide slavery? Via ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So you're going to be taken into lands of captivity again. You're going to be taken away captive via ships, and you're going to be sold there in these lands. When our people were brought on slave ships, then they got here, then they had to stand on auction blocks and get sold unto our enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy you, no man shall redeem you, no man shall save you out of your slavery, your captivity, and your oppression. We are those people, the Negroes. All these curses did not befall those other people. They came upon us, the Israelites. The bloodline, the seed of the man Jacob, the man who was surnamed Israel. Right? Okay. Hosea chapter 2. Say ye unto your brethren, Ami, and to your sisters, Ruhama, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms. For their mother hath played the harlot. She hath conceived them. She that conceived them hath done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up thy way with thorns and make a wall, and she shall not find her paths. And she shall follow after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them. And she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then shall she say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then was it better with me than now. For she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil, and multiplied her silver and gold, which they prepared for Baal. And see, this was what happened with our people, right? Our people went after all these other nations. And because we went after all these other nations, we followed after them. He gave us up to our own devices. He said, okay, you want to follow after them? You want to follow after their gods? You want to follow after their customs and their traditions? You want to do as they do? All right, fine. Go your way. Go do it. Be joined unto them. You're no longer Israelites. You are Gentiles now. You are one with the other people. Now I see you as I see the other nations. You are now Gentiles, Israelites. For she did not know that I gave her corn and wine and oil and multiplied her silver and gold, because our people were after these other nations, after their gods. And because the Most High God loved his people, they were receiving benefits from him, being taken care of by him, even though they didn't know him, even though they were not praying to him, even though they were not worshiping him, honoring him. They were still being given benefits of being his children. Therefore will I return and take away my corn in time thereof. But hold on. And see, it happened in our times as well. Even though we ceased from knowing who we were and who we belong to, we still receive blessings in our captivity. Even not knowing him, he still took care of us. Right? He didn't allow us to be utterly consumed and destroyed. He allowed us, a remnant of us, to be preserved for the end. Here we are. Let's see. Therefore will I return and take away my corn in the time thereof, and my wine in the season thereof, and will recover my wool and my flax given to cover her nakedness. I'm going to take everything from you that I gave you. I'm going to take away all the signs of my blessings, all the signs that you belong to me. Everything that I've done for you, I'm going to take it away. It's like a divorce. This is a divorce happening. Right? There's a divorce happening. I'm taking away everything, including my name, Israel. That's why he says, and although them who are called by my name, his people Israel. That's like giving us his last name after marriage. He took away their name. They can no longer be considered Israel. They became Gentiles. The Gentiles of the New Testament being spoken of. And now will I discover her lewdness, meaning uncover, meaning to reveal, in the sight of her lovers. And this is what happened to us. He revealed our wickedness to the people. And none shall deliver her out of my hand. And so then that's what happened. We were revealed. And when we were revealed and everybody saw that we were in wickedness, and then they learned that, oh, their God is not with them anymore. That means there's a green light on the Israelites. We can go take them captive. That's how those people knew that they can go take us captive. When they were able to subjugate us in Spain and Portugal, right? They knew that was the sign that our God had turned his back on us, that we no longer had his protection. That's why if you read Christopher Columbus's his diary, his journals, when he was venturing out to go to America, he said he was going to go sack the Holy Land. He said he was on his way to go to Jerusalem to go sack the Holy Land. That's the reason why he took Hebrew interpreters with him to the quote unquote New World, because he knew the people that he was going to were Hebrew speakers. He knew. See, we lost this information over time. But back then, they knew exactly what people they were coming against. They knew it was the Israelites. They knew which people in particular that they was trying to get, because they knew if we can get these people in possession, then we can become the new power, because every nation that takes the Israelites into possession, they became a powerful and mighty nation. They reaped blessings from holding us in their possession, because we were like the goose that laid the golden eggs. Right? Our fall enriched the other nations. Anybody who held fast to us would be blessed. That's why these people never tried to get rid of you, Israelites, even though they hate your guts. They've hated you all along and said, oh, you're African and go back to Africa. Yeah, they ain't never tried to ship you out of here, did they? Nope, because they knew their blessings were tied to us. If they send us away, they would no longer reap benefits. We would benefit the people in the lands that we were sent to if they got rid of us. This is what they knew. This is why they went to the west coast of Africa, the same place where the Portuguese and the Spaniards dumped the Israelites who who they banished from their lands. They went and dropped them off on the west coast of Africa. And then they came back to the west coast of Africa to take from those same people who was dumped over on the west coast of Africa, and then took them into a worldwide slavery in a place called Negro Land, and a place where Israelites were known to dwell. And the Hamites and the Ishmaelite nations in those regions teamed up with the Europeans to capture us and to take us into that worldwide slavery. You see, because the Ishmaelites, the Arabs, they had long been subjugating us, because before there was a transatlantic slave trade, there was a sub-Saharan slave trade. Right? But I digress. And I will discover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and none shall deliver her out of mine hand. I will also cause all her mirth to cease, all happiness and joy, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. He said, I will make it to cease. So these people who claim that they are Israelites and claim that they have never lost their heritage, never lost their customs, never lost their language, never not been celebrating their feast days and everything else, they don't match the scripture. Because the scripture says, the Most High says, I'm going to take away all of these things. I'm going to make it all to cease. We are the people that bear the record that he made it cease with us. These people claim they have always, for generations, ever since they can remember, all the way back, they've always been practicing this, and they've never not been upholding their traditions and customs. That means that makes them imposters. That makes them fraudulent. Or it makes the Most High God a liar. You choose what you believe is the truth. And I will destroy her vines and her fig trees, whereof she hath said, these are my rewards that my lovers have given me. And I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall eat them. And I will visit upon her the days of Baalim, wherein she burned incense to them. And she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and she went after her lovers and forgot me, say the Lord, talking about Israel going after the other gods and being joined unto the other nations. Then he goes from talking about their fall to talk about their restoration. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, Israel, and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. He's talking about a time to come that he's going to bring the Israelites into the wilderness. And I'm going to lure her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. And I will give her her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shall call me no more Baali, or Lord. For I will take away the names of Baalim out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. He says, when he brings his people into the land, he's going to bring his people into the land. He's going to make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things on the ground, meaning the animals, the beasts, all of creation will be in obedience to his people. His people will be able to walk up to the lion and pet it like it's a house cat. They will be able to hold a snake in their hand and not be stung, hold a scorpion in the hand and not be stung. They will not be harmed by anything in creation, because everything in creation would understand that these are the people of the Most High God, and they would be subservient. Even the animals would be subservient and kind and loving and docile and harmless to the people. When he put them in their land, this is what they would do. Are these people, do they exhibit any signs of having a covenant with the creatures? He says, I will break the sword and the bow and the battle out of the earth. He will remove war. When I put my people in their land, let me slow down. I'm looking at the time and I'm starting to rush. This is why I speak so fast, you guys, because I have a lot to say and I don't want to make like a 3-hour long video. So I speak fast because I'm trying to get as much out as possible in the small amount of time that I'm giving myself to do it. I just don't want to be one of those people that make 3-hour long videos. Okay. And so if anybody ever wondered, why is he speaking so fast? This is why my brain is racing against time. That's what's going on. Okay. And I'm looking at the time and I see I've reached that time to stop and I'm still inside of this chapter. So I'm rushing right now, but I'm going to get this chapter done and then we'll stop here. All right. So he says, I will make them to lie down safely when I bring them into their land. I'm going to remove all fighting, wars, all of that will cease when I bring my people into their land. It's going to be the end of it. So his people should not be in their own land. One, they shouldn't be in their own land before he returns. And two, when they are in their own land, they shall be dwelling in safety. They shouldn't be at war. They shouldn't be, at odds with the people around them. There should be no more fighting in all of the earth. All wars shall be over. All fighting shall have ceased. They shall have a covenant with the creatures. But that is not true. That means those people have not fulfilled prophecy. They are counterfeiting prophecy. Verse 19, and I will betroth thee unto me forever. He's telling Israel, I'm going to betroth thee unto me forever, not the Christian church. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in loving kindness and in mercies. Look what he's saying he's going to do with his people. He never says, I'm going to throw you away. He makes a promise to them that he's going to betroth his people, Israel, to him forever in righteousness, in judgment, in loving kindness, and in mercies. And I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord, thou Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, saith the Lord. I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel, Israel. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. These are the Israelites that went into captivities, the Israelites that became one with the other nations, the Israelites that became known as Gentiles. They became known as heathens. And I will say to them, which were not my people, because they discontinued from being his people for a time, thou art my people. And they shall say, thou art my God. So he told us that he was going to get rid of these people for a time. They were going to become Gentiles. They were going to become one with the other nations. And then the time was going to come when he was going to have mercy upon them and declare to them, you are my people. And they shall say, thou art my power. That's what you have been witnessing these last few years and last few decades. Actually, the awakening has begun, but it intensified recently, right? Well, 2019, and when COVID happened, you saw the great awakening begin to happen. The Most High shut down the whole world so that he can wake people up. He caused everything to come to a cease. And in that time, when everybody was sitting at home with nothing but time on their hands, they're on the internet searching, surfing the internet, crashing into waves of knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and truth, waking up, right? In the time of Christ, people began waking up. He brought the gospel of mercy, of forgiveness, of reconciliation to the Father, to Israel. Let us give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, and to his beloved Son, our King, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. We give thanks for the Holy Spirit, the filling up of our cups, the outpouring of all the blessings that come from the Spirit that causes us to be increased in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and to be made to abound in the fruits of the Spirit. To God be the glory. and his many blessings upon his saints. To you Gentile believers, to you Gentiles that wish to cling to his people and receive salvation, the truth is the way to your salvation. The lies of Christianity will destroy you. You gotta be willing to hear the harsh truth, the harsh, get my tongue together, the harsh truth, instead of being comforted by smooth lies, by sweet lies. Would you rather somebody save you with harsh words or to let you be destroyed with sweet words? You make the decision. Choose you this day, life or death. Shalom.